I will not give up my favorite decoration. Here's your look at the Gentle Giant Star Wars Han Solo in Carbonite Collector's Gallery 1/8 scale statue. Carbon freezing is an industrial process that encases highly pressurized gases inside solidified carbonite. In Cloud City, Darth Vader decided to freeze Luke Skywalker in carbonite for transport to the Emperor. Before setting his trap for Luke, Vader tested the process on Han Solo. The smuggler survived and was later freed by Princess Leia in Jabba's palace, though hibernation sickness left him temporarily blind. Designed, modeled, and prototyped using top-of-the-line 3D technology, this 1/8 scale statue represents the next level in their new collection of ongoing Star Wars saga statues. Each statue is hand-cast, hand-painted, and hand-numbered with a limited edition certificate of authenticity. Before we have a look at Han Solo frozen in carbonite, the first thing we're going to do is calculate just how tall the statue is, should you wish to add this one to your collection. And while of course I'm doing this, I'd like to send out a big mad props thanks to the folks over at Diamond Select who provided the sample that we're going to be having a look at in this review. Stopping the tape measure to the very top of Han Solo's prison, you're looking at the statue standing 11.7 inches in height. And then switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the statue being almost 30 centimeters in height, 29.7 to be exact. To come packed along with Solo, you do get yourself a trading card, but it does serve more a purpose than just simply a trading card. On the front, you have a depiction of what the statue will look like. Down below that, Star Wars Han Solo in carbonite. It actually doesn't say Han Solo frozen in carbonite, but you still get the idea. In the corner, there's Gentle Giant, as Diamond Select does handle Gentle Giant releases now. But if you flip it around to the back, this is the most important aspect of it. It does come included with a certificate of authenticity. Always hold on to these, and if you're ever in the market to picking up these pieces for yourself, always check to make sure that there's the certificate of authenticity inside to tell you that it is an official Gentle Giant release. Now this one happens to be out of a very limited run of 2,000 copies worldwide. I know, you're probably thinking to yourself, 2,000 copies, well, I have lots of time to get to that. 2,000 copies, like I said, can go quite quickly. This one happens to be 84 out of that limited number release of 2,000 copies worldwide. In case you're also curious, let's very carefully pick up the statue and tip it upside down. As you would normally expect to see with the statues is also true here as well with the frozen in carbonite Solo. He does come with also that same number sequence underneath the display base with 4 rubberized feet. I question actually why the rubberized feet weren't on the corners here, as instead they're actually just more in the center area. But I guess really most, if not all, the weights, specifically for this one, because it's quite a heavy piece, is pretty much all more with Solo and not necessarily with the base. So I guess they would have put the rubber feet here to reinforce this section, as opposed to putting the feet on the outer edges, the outer reaches of the base. Because of course all the weight, like I said, is going to be right here, all around this area, this section right here. Speaking of the display base, let's have a look at the display base. Not too much to certainly talk to. We have the floor grading of what seems to be inside Jabba's palace, whereas he indicates to Luke Skywalker's hologram at least, he doesn't want to certainly let go of his favorite prized possession, as of course Han Solo in his frozen carbonite state. It pretty much does mimic what we see in the film. I mean, sticklers could certainly indicate the fact that Solo is slightly higher up from the flooring than what we actually have depicted here. But I guess based on the stability of this, and only that there's these 2 metal posts connecting the top of the statue to the bottom of the base, I can understand certainly why they wanted to have it a little bit lower as opposed to higher up. The grading floor does look pretty good. As you can see, there's a gradient of color that goes from more the yellow in the middle, then progressively transitions to an orange, until it's going to a more very dark red on the outer areas. Then, of course, you've got the more rusted color in between that, sort of gridding out the flooring. It does really look nice. I mean, obviously, when you look at a statue like this, not really going to be so much honing in on the base itself. You're going to be looking at Solo, who's hovering above it. But as it goes for certainly a display base, it's really nice, and it does add a whole lot of extra color to an otherwise pretty gray-looking Han Solo. Yes, with Han Solo, he certainly has a lot of gray. In the movie, of course, he's frozen in carbonite, so he basically has an all-singular color to him. The framework, and I guess really in the movie, it's the frame, and then he's basically frozen inside the frame, which would then explain why there's all these light-up contraptions and little switches and stuff certainly on the side of the carbonite tomb. It is certainly a nice recreation of how he appears in the film for the end of Empire and the beginning of Return. It does look like it does from the film itself. I might even say that the coloring is a little too light. I probably would have just pulled that color slightly darker, because it comes across a little bit more darker, I feel, in the film. But as it certainly goes for his molded face, that does pull off a rather successful looking Solo, if you ask me. Not only, of course, do you have the impression, if you get the impression, of Han Solo, all the detailing is captured here. The wrinkles in his shirt, of course, the last grab of freedom before he's frozen in his state. You can see his fingers all extended out. And of course, the anguish on Solo's face. You can really read that when you see it first in the film. Painful it is to see Solo being pulled down into that pit and then popped back up in this basically imprisoned tomb. But the detailing certainly is there. Any places that don't make Solo, like any places that don't have Solo on it, you can still see there's texturing done to it. There's sort of a spackling, if you will, of all this kind of texturing detail that they've done to it as well. Again, very accurate to the way it looks in the film. This is basically going to be the side you're going to be looking at. You're obviously going to be looking at from the front. Just in case you are curious as to what it looks like on the back, it is that. Kind of looks like a big door, doesn't it? Obviously, I know, this is not the place, this is not the way you're going to be looking at the statue, but just to show you what it looks like on the back. And there's also some detailing done to the top as well, possibly another place that you're not going to see necessarily on the statue, but just to show you that they put just as much detail on the top as they do on the front with Solo. Now, if we tip it to the side, here is, of course, where we have all the control mechanisms that kind of keep Han Solo alive inside of this carbonite. As you can see, it's pretty good and faithfully recreated. There's a few little metal areas that you want to be a little bit more careful of. They kind of look like staples that have been stuck into the sides, but being that they are what seems almost to be metal, you want to be very careful and make sure you don't bang those in any way. That seems only to be the case on one side. The other side has very similar carbon copy panels to one another, as you can see right there. The only thing I would have really said, I mean, looking at the statue, it has a lot of good things going for it. Definitely does capture, I feel, a likeness to Han Solo, but I feel like, if anything, they probably could have added some additional colors here on the side. Certainly the thing that stands out to me the most to this is that he had that little green square that would also flash on and off in green. I'm guessing it would be probably right here. I'm trying to look around to see where else it would be on the carbonite. I think it is on this side. I really wish that there was some additional color added to this. While the details, I feel, are all captured, without the additional color that's added to it, I don't feel like any of these panels have any life of their own. Not as if they're actually turned on, at least. So while it certainly does look good for Solo, I do certainly wish, if anything else, I wish that the panels themselves had a little bit of additional afforded paint to them. There's a few little areas that do, like there's a little bit of gold down below. And on this side, you sort of more get the blue happening on the top there. But that green square, I think, could have been certainly added. A few little maybe red lights and something else just to make it look like it's actually working currently and keeping Solo alive inside. Did I actually mention that it is heavy? Yes, the statue is quite considerably heavy, with really more, again, as you could probably guess, not much the weight in the bottom, but more so on the top here, which would certainly explain then why those rubberized feet aren't on the edges of the display base, rather closer inside, to sort of stabilize and offset the weight for the Solo that's standing on top of it. I can't certainly speak for everybody, but I know certainly as a kid watching The Empire Strikes Back and seeing Han Solo imprisoned in Carbonite, it traumatized me. I didn't know if he was actually going to be dead, if we ever were going to see him ever again, because I really liked the character. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's frozen inside this tomb. What was going to happen to him? Empire Strikes Back does have a somewhat depressing ending because you really don't know where the story is going to take off. You have to wait a couple of years, of course, to find out in Return of the Jedi that Han Solo is A-okay. A little on the blind side in the beginning, but certainly he is a lot in better states than he was in Return of the Jedi, than he was at the end of Empire Strikes Back. I certainly hope I'm not giving that away to anybody that hasn't seen the film. Basing from the fact that Empire took place in the early 80s, I would think by now everybody has probably seen the film and know why Han Solo is frozen in Carbonite and the fact that he frees himself. Right now somebody's like, oh my god, I didn't even know that happened. Thank you for spoiling it there, humbled reviewer. Okay. As for the statue itself, it's certainly a nice representation of how Han Solo appears at the end of Empire and at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. I like the fact that he is sort of hovering. Now, the hovering is pulled off by two metal posts. They couldn't have done that in clear based on solely the weight of the piece. It wouldn't have been able to hold its weight. So, of course, they had to use good, sturdy metal posts to keep it upright, to give it that look like it's hovering over top of Jabba's palace floorboard or floor grating there. The floor grating does add a little bit of extra color, which is, again, the one thing I hope that this statue could have presented a little bit of more extra color. Not necessarily to Han Solo himself, but I would say at least to the control panels that are on the side of the Carbonite. I feel like they could have had a little bit of additional color, because if not for that, it's a whole lot of silver. It works well for Solo. I just wish that there would have been a little bit more color represented on the sides of the panels as well. This is definitely going to be something I'm going to be putting out on display. Possibly going to try to mimic what's happening on the back of the box with maybe one focal light shining down on it to sort of simulate the way it appears in the film. If you were also traumatized by Solo being frozen in Carbonite, let me know down below in the comments section. We can chit-chat about the whole thing. Also, let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of the Han Solo frozen in Carbonite, or I think it actually was just called Han Solo in Carbonite. They sort of just omitted the frozen part, but we get the idea. A big thank you to the folks, by the way, at Diamond Select who took the time and provided the sample that we had a look at in this review. If you guys are new to the channel and you're liking the content that you're seeing, maybe you've been watching this content for a while and just for some strange reason, you got sidetracked, you were doing other things, didn't realize that you didn't hit the subscribe button this whole time. All the time you've just been searching the channel on YouTube. There's a lot easier way to do that. Simply just hit that subscribe button down below, simply turn on the bell notification, and simply stay tuned Monday to Friday at 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when new videos pop up on this channel. We're going to have a look at a few other Diamond Select and Gentle Giant statue reviews coming up in the next coming days, the next coming weeks or so on this channel, so keep your peepers peeled for those. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.